Alright guys, today we're going to talk about coordinates, transforms, units, and organization. So to get started, go ahead and just grab any object in your scene and we're going to play around with the transforms. So when I say the word transforms, I'm talking about this panel right here and the details. Make sure you're not in your world settings. And you're going to see the things such as location, rotation, and scale. So we know that we can move it around with this right here, and we know that we can move it around with the middle one to kind of do a free move. But what you may not know is you can also adjust the location with these numbers right here, and this is called the Cartesian coordinate system, which I'm going to go over in a little bit later. But it's basically just an X, Y, and Z axis. So this is the Y value. This is the X value. And this is the Z value. And you can see the same thing when I push E and I go to rotation. It's the same thing, X, Y, and Z, or roll, pitch, and yaw. So if I roll it, it goes like that. If I pitch it, it does that, and the yaw is this. So yeah, there you go. But again, of course you can move it like this as well. Notice how when I rotate it, it rotates around this point right here in the corner. This is called our pivot point, and the pivot point is determining when you move it and when you rotate it, etc. Where is it going to be rotating from? Now you might have a video game where you want this to rotate from the center. So let me turn the lighting on here so you can see. Okay, so maybe we want it to rotate not from down there, but from the middle. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to move this pivot point into the center. And this can be done in Maya when you're creating the object and you bake this pivot into it. But you can also move it in game if you need to. And you do that by holding down Alt and then moving it not with the left mouse button but with the middle mouse button. So then if I were to stick this in the center, and then if we go to E again to rotate, you can see that it does this. Now you might find that when you do that and then you come back to it, it's down back here again. So in order to make this permanent, what you would need to do is right click on your object, go down here to pivot, and then you can say set as pivot offset. And now this is saved in this location. If you ever wanted to go back for any reason, you can always right click, pivot, and reset the pivot offset to where it originally was. When you move an object, generally you're moving it from the face of the object, and that's called the object location or the object transform. But sometimes you might have a situation where you'd want to rotate it or move it from the world location. So for example, let's say I rotate this real quick, and now when I move it, it's still let me try that again. Now when I move it, I can move it this way or this way. But let's say I had an object like this, and I'm going to go in the world one here, and I made a copy of it. And then this copy, I wanted to move it over here and rotate. Well, once I rotate it, moving it, once I rotate it, moving it now becomes a little bit of a challenge. As you can see, if I wanted to put it so this corner connected here, it doesn't really line up. So even though it's great to move for the actual object, in the world space it's hard to get these to line up. So if you click on this button, it cycles to the world transform, which makes it really easy for you to line these up. And then afterwards, if you were to make a copy of this, maybe I'd want to go back to the object one, so when I make a copy, it snaps to this one. And you can see how that might be useful. So go ahead and just play around with rotating it and then moving it in both the world space and in the object space, which you're going to be using both times. I've already talked a little bit about snaps, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just know that this adjusts the movement snap, so it will go all the way to here if I adjust that one to 500. You can adjust the rotation snap, which means this is only going to do 90-degree rotations, boom or boom. You can set that all the way down to 15 or 5 if you need to. You can also adjust the scale snaps, so if I did this and I scaled it, it's only going to scale to 10 times the size. And I've never really used that before. I don't know why you would, but if you set it to 0.03125, then you'll notice that you can scale it very minuscule amounts. And keep in mind, you can always scale it right here. So if I want it to be half the size, I can go 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5. And there you see it. And same thing is true with rotation. If I wanted it to be 90 degrees, I could take this and just set it to 90. And there it is. So just remember, you have the transform over here in the details panel if you need to make any of those changes. One interesting thing to note is that when you do move things around, it does it in units of centimeters. So if I start with, let's put this at 0, 0, 0 for now, and it's probably going to be somewhere, there it is. So this is 0, 0, 0 location. It's like at the starting point of the game, the very center of my map. If I were to take this x-axis and move it 100, let's try that again. What it's doing is it's moving at 100 centimeters, which is a meter. So back to 0, I just moved 1 meter to the left. So when you think about units, you want to kind of think about how the actual size of the map line up. You could say, oh, you know what, I want this, the size of this to be, you know, I don't know how many meters this is, but we could check if we snapped this to 100, this is going to be 1 meter up, 2 meters up, 3 meters. So just a quick little estimate here. I could see that 1, 2, 3, 400. That's 400 centimeters. That's 4 meters. So imagine a meter stick. 4 meters is pretty tall. I am not fast at math, so let's convert meters. 4 meters, oops, to feet is 13 feet tall. So that right here is 13 feet tall wall. So if I were to walk up to it, I should go about halfway, and you can see that that's correct. So just remember, it's in centimeters, and if I were to just change these to 1 and nudge it this way, I just moved 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters, and you can see right there the number. Okay, so I'm just making sure that we're going through all of these. Yeah, the transform does store the position, rotation, and the scale of an actor in a 3D space. So let's head over to the next thing, which is the world outliner, how to keep things organized. So let's say I had this wall and this wall, which I duplicated simply by holding down Alt. Let's say I wanted these to be part of a new building, and as you can see right now, I have a lot of stuff, and it's really hard to stay organized. So what I might want to do is create, for these two objects, which are now selected, a folder for them, a group. So in this folder, I'll call this wall, and there you go. Now, let's say for whatever reason, let me find this in here again. Let's say that for whatever reason, I wanted something to stick to this wall. Let's say a sphere. And let me make that a different color for you guys. So let's say for whatever reason, if I move this wall around, the sphere stays on it. It sticks to it. What I can do is I can, let's find that wall folder again. I'll put this in the wall folder. And now, if I were to move the whole folder, well, I guess I can't move the whole folder. I can turn the folder invisible and visible. But as far as, let's say I wanted to move this wall, well, the sphere does not stay stuck to it, even though it's in the same group. In order to do that, I have to attach the sphere to it, and I can do that by clicking and dragging to this wall. And now the sphere is what we call a child of the wall. So if I move the wall, the sphere now moves with it. And creating children is, when you create a child, it's called attaching. So the sphere is now attached to the wall. And it can be very useful if you're putting things together. For example, this window right here should be attached to this wall, and it is not. And you'll notice that I'm not naming these, and I'm just leaving everything kind of stranded. That's actually really bad practice, and shame on me, because it's going to be impossible for me to go back and make changes to this later, because I'm just not going to know what it is. So if I call this you know, wall window 1 or O1, that'd be a good habit. And then we can take this and we can call it wall, or I'll just say window 01, and then I know that those two attach. So if I find window 01 and I scroll up here and I find wall window 01, it now has a child. So when I move the wall, the window is going to go with it. As you can see, it does. I think that pretty much covers everything. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, just let me know. There is also a lot of this information in here, so I'll go ahead and just post this if you want to look at anything that I didn't answer, and feel free to Google it. Alright guys, have a great day.